Okay, hello everyone to MaxEB breakout call number 4. The previous one was a bit short, so we have some items overflowing from the previous one. We also have Vasily from Lido. Hello, thank you for joining. Who wants to present something? So let's start by agenda items. So first of all, we have custom ceilings. We touched on this a bit the previous day, but didn't go to any conclusion. So just to recap, custom ceilings is technically optional feature for MaxEB that we may want to consider or not to include at all. And if so, there are a bunch of considerations that we should agree on. So let's touch on this quickly. So first of all, any new arguments for custom ceilings to be included or not? Please speak up.
What do you mean by new arguments or any arguments?
Anything that you feel relevant, please share.
Okay, sure. So I'd like to start from the case where we don't have custom ceilings. And in this case, we'll have to, those stickers that have 0x02 compounding credentials, they will have to utilize partial withdrawals to scheme balances, and probably this will cause this partial withdrawal queue, which sits on EL and has a spam protection with a fee that has this 1559 mechanics. It grows eventually when the target is exceeded. So it probably will just, be heavily utilized by pools, by staking pools, and will will result in this fee goes higher and higher, and make this not that good in terms of UX for solo stakers who wants also to skim their balances, or just do the exit. The initial goal 7,002 was the enable exits from EL. So that's the main reason why custom ceilings make sense to me. And this probably to the question, we can ask Vasily for if we don't have custom ceilings, how often Lido, for instance, would like to skim their balances? How would it look like from their perspective?
Hey, yeah. Was going to jump in anyway, so thank you for asking. So in general, this is like nice to have a feature for Lido, but like not really a super important one by itself. It could make the two things a bit better. One is compounding, depending on like the deposit queue size and the size of like average size of the validator in raised MaxEB world. It might be better to consolidate through like automatic skimming party withdrawals instead of auto consolidation by validator. I think it's negligible and it's not super important here. The other part is that it could like stake distribution in Lido is always like at least slightly but rebalancing the stake so that it distributed more evenly across node operators in across staking modules and stuff, and having limits on like, for example, too big node operator size, so that it's automatically skimmed and staked to a smaller validator is a smaller node operator is also helpful, but it's again like not super important by itself. What would be like where it might be like a real good feature for us, and why it could be a real like important feature, is that that is what I was going to talk about. The current design of consolidation breaks the accounting we have in the protocol, and it breaks some other protocols too. I think it breaks like Rocket Pool as it is right now. Like makes a bond unwithdrawable for mini pools that are consolidated. And having withdrawal credential setting up limits on the validators that are consolidated would help with the keeping this in check until protocol has full support for MaxEB validators, like all the accounting is updated and all the oracles are updated and also like battle tested and stuff. But that's not the only way to make it work, to make it better. So like basically any kind of control from withdrawal credentials over consolidation would work just as well.
Vasily, one question. So getting back to this scheming part.
Yeah.
Let's assume we have no custom ceilings and we have partial withdrawal, have to submit partial withdrawals to scheme the balance, the excess of the balance. So what's your opinion on how often would operators do this? Or while there's like for each while they're once per week, once per day, or once per month probably?
My guess it's not too often. I think that like basically it would have like at least like my guess here would be that on the initial rollout the validators will be limited to like 128 or something like that others per validator, and the scheme would happen when withdrawals are requested and scheme is needed, or when the validator balance grows like more than like 130, like 135 or something like that, like something like that, and that means that happens pretty rarely. Like first one happens in total about 100 times a day, maybe something like that, and the second one would happen per validator once per half a year. My rule of like my guess would be something like that. So not often.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for the contribution. We can go back to the issue about the consolidation. I think that this is really interesting and we should dig deeper into. But just to follow the agenda, any other point for custom ceilings, or do we want to do any decision today? Okay, let's move on. Next point is mean activation balance versus max effective balance. Not sure if you want to take it from here, Mikael. I think I don't remember who brought this up.
Yeah, so I just think that we should use one constant, the name of this constant, because currently in this spec there is a mean activation balance and max effective balance. There is also max effective balance with the EAP number, which is the 2048, while max effective balance without any suffix is basically 32 ETH. And yeah, it is the same as mean activation balance. Semantically, in some cases, mean activation balance makes sense, but in some it does not. But I don't think we. I think that the complexity of having three constants instead of just two, outweighs the need of this semantics separation. So we just need to decide which one to use. I think actually Francesco made a good comment on why we should not use max effective balance. But this is just because it is confusing, and yeah, we are not completely switching to a new one. We have to in our logic, and it would be good to separate them. So I think that mean activation balance and max effective balance with the suffix that we have for this EAP. And eventually we'll have a max effective balance Electra. Makes sense to me. I don't know if anyone wants to keep max effective balance. Yeah, just.
So do we want to collapse mean activation balance and max effective balance retroactively for previous forks?
Good question. I don't know.
So clients have to maintain legacy code anyway. So this is why it's relevant, and we may want to maintain both. It depends on what we do with previous forks. But I agree that at least from Electron going forward, it makes sense to collapse legacy max effective balance and mean activation balance in the same variable. I think that's sensible. Cool. So I think we are in agreement on that. Next point, weak subjectivity questions.
Yeah, so weak subjectivity question. I think we should think more. I started to think more about it. Need to discuss it with Francesco. So the problem here is that we have a new activation. We have a kind of pending deposits, and we also have pending deposits queue. And the problem is that a validator can exit, and yeah, now the exit churn is depends on the balance. So the computation of the exit epoch depends on the balance, and a simple case is where 32 ETH validator exited, and it gets it exit epoch, but after that it topped up by say 2000 ETH, which will remain active until the validator is exited, but then yeah, it will just instantly this 2000 ETH will instantly exit and bypass the exit churn. So we need to understand how this changes the weak subjectivity period. The intuition here is that it obviously will be shorter, and what to do about it. If it's not that bad, probably we can just take this hit and yeah, keep it as is. If not, then we need to do something about it, and it's not that obvious. What should we do in this case? Because we could reset the exit epoch. It means that we will reset the withdrawal epoch, but there are a couple of places in the MaxEB spec. One in the MaxEB spec, the other one is correlation slashing penalties, where withdrawal epoch is kind of like an invariant, and changing it can break things. So that's kind of a recap on the problem. This is yet to be investigated.
Yeah, I guess what would happen if we collapse the mechanism of pending partial withdrawals with the exit, such that if you request an exit for X balance and then that balance gets topped up, well, I guess if you fully exit the validator, that balance would not be active anymore. So I see the issue.
There's like one of the for voluntary exits that could work. So you prevent validator from, you just Yeah, just the exit is prohibited if there is the pending deposit into this validator, but yeah, it will not prevent all the cases anyway, because it can happen the other order. So first exited, then you top up. That's not going to work.
Okay, so yeah, if you can write a doc or share your thoughts on the chat. So yeah, next point. Vasily, you wanna take it from here? If you wanna recap the comment from before or just start from another point, really eager, yeah, to listen to your points. You are muted if you're trying to speak.
Yeah, sorry. I assume you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So there are two things I wanted to talk about. One is the issues with the consolidation of validators without control of withdrawal credentials, without green light from withdrawal credentials. And the other is deposit front run mitigation that can be made as a part of this EP, or maybe like as a separate EP, I don't know. But it's like pretty important thing to talk about, I think. So in general, LiDAR counting, which is both on-chain and off-chain, is built on a number of assumptions that are broken with the consolidation mechanism. For example, stake and rewards are distributed to operators based on number of active validators, not their balance. So this when effective balance can grow a lot, this means that this part, if not fixed, breaks. It's also this is like a more of minor issue, but right now accounting doesn't check for doesn't account for validators that had been deposited outside of LiDAR protocol deposits, and but has LiDAR withdrawal credentials as main credentials. They are considered not part of the protocol. If node operator can deposit a new validator outside the protocol and consolidate his LiDAR validators under it, it breaks the accounting as well. And there are like a number of minor issues with the scheming, how to count the total balance of either or consensus layer, etc., which is like requires pretty much like touching most parts of the protocol to change. So while the changes are like small, there is a lot of them and they touch a lot, and this means there is implementation risk. So like that we don't have time to do it all properly in terms of spectra. If there is a modicum of control over consolidation from withdrawal credential, like being able to prevent consolidation, or at least being able to set the the maximum effective balance for such validator to 32 ETH. It means that we are not in a hurry to push it all into before the protocol, before the hard fork, and we can do it in a more measured time. Otherwise, I think like we can duct tape it together, even if there is no way for the raw credentials to like have an opinion on whether the validators under it are consolidated or not. But in general, it would be preferred to have some molecule control for the raw credentials because it makes life for staking protocols easier. So I know that like this was the subject of the previous call, but we weren't ready by then to present this. We didn't analyze this in depth yet, so I bring it on right now. And also, I'm not like 100% sure, but I think that as it is, it would break other like at least some other staking protocols as well, because they also rely on some things that are no longer true when not operator can consolidate validators without withdrawal credentials having saying this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think those are really good and strong points. One of the assumptions that we incorrectly made is that any validator that has or shares the same withdrawal credentials is fungible within another, and that's not true. So I think that this is a very strong argument that, in my mind, invalidates the previous design, and we should consider. Probably this solution is consolidation should be initiated by the withdrawal credentials, and I think that should mitigate the risk. There is another attack that I'm not sure if you have considered here, but in the case of Lido, you could have n operators consolidating on one specific operator, and that operator would have a massive amount of stake exceeding the limits.
I mean, this is possible right now with passing the validation keys around. Like this is consolidation is not one way to do it.
Okay.
Like just sharing the keys will do it just as well.
Right.
It's more about like this does not introduce new risk about the not operators themselves. It introduces the risks about like proper accounting protocol and how does it deal with the fact that like what I thought was like one validator is 32 ETH, no, like not much more than that, and now it's wrong. Like and yeah.
I guess considering if we had done MaxEB from the beginning, then one approach for Lido would have been to have distinct withdrawal credentials per operator, where this destination contract is just maybe a pass-through into the main accounting one. Like would something like that would have addressed the issue?
Yeah, that or like it's not terribly difficult to redesign the protocol in a way that it doesn't have this assumption baked in, like that it treats number of validators and balances validators completely separately and tracks them separately and does not have an assumption about like what's that one validator is 32 at the tops. But like the difficulty is not that it's hard to implement. The difficulty is that's like it's already baked into multiple places in the code and requires like rewriting touching a lot of parts, and that's a major thing to do when there is like $30 billion under smart contracts.
Right. Could you touch on other breaking changes that such a change could cause that you have not listed here and that you may consider in some other protocols?
Sorry, didn't get like what the other thing that for other protocols. The thing is I didn't check yet, but as far like as I remember from reading the code, StakeVAS has a similar architecture and might have similar problems. I think that Rocket Pool might have like a bit different kind of problems. For example, there is a bond that is tied to a concrete validator, and if within a mini pool, and if not operator for this mini pool consolidates the validators into one, they can't withdraw for example, 4 validators into one. They can't withdraw 3 of them, and this bond is basically forfeit. And the one validator that is like consolidated has now like only 8 ether bond for 128 ethers. But I'm not 100% sure. That's like just where I would look if I was analyzing this in depth. I think that this could be a weak point. Basically, there is a way to throw balance, like send ether on the beacon chain now, not just on the execution layer, and this hasn't been anticipated by a lot of folks programming around beacon chain layer.
Okay, thank you. Leaving the floor open in case anyone wants to comment.
Just want to ask the second point. Am I right that it can't be fixed without redesigning the contracts, like what Lion was suggesting, to have a contract for each operator?
No.
Otherwise, it doesn't.
No.
I mean, like the second one, how would you match the validator key then, which operator it belongs to? Because you have to track this to understand how many balances are for each operator to evenly distribute the stake.
So when validators are consolidated, if they are consolidated within the same node operator, it's trivial to track. They were consolidated, like if 4 validators or like 10 validators or like 100 validators from a single node operator are consolidated into one, you can you can track the consolidation, understand which validators, which node operator owns the new validator, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and if they're from multiple node operators, that is basically violation of the protocol, and it could be like they have to be ejected with the 7002 conveniently allowing us to do this like straight from the smart contract level.
Okay,
it's not complete redesign. It's like accounting issue that can be fixed in accounting, like just in a few places, and like a lot of chain code that needs to be updated.
Do you want to touch on the second document?
Yes. Yes, the second document is like there is a well-known potential for vulnerability in protocols and like in general interactions with the delegated stake. So when there is a deposit, when the validator has been deposited with one withdrawal credential and then had been redeposited with another withdrawal credentials, like second deposit goes to the same validator and withdrawal credentials remain the same. So if there is a deposit, for example, in the queue, and node operator front runs them with their own withdrawal credentials, they can steal ether from this second deposit. This had been like back in the day, I think StakeWise found this vulnerability in Rocket Pool and Lido, and both protocols had to redesign. And I think the same vulnerabilities live right now in a few delegated stake kind of applications like Abyss Finance, where you can put it like deposit credentials and deposit to another operator you want. So deposits can be front run, deposit from client to not operator can be front run by not operator to steal the funds. There is immense amount of work that is going on mitigation this stuff. And these mitigations are not particularly like great. For Lido, it's basically a hypersensitive trusted oracle that can stop deposits if it detects like a whiff of a problem, something wrong with deposits. For Rocket Pool, it's pre-deposit, which means that like the not operator in Rocket Pool has to deposit 8 or 16 others or like some others before they are accepted into to be deposited by the user, and this is like not very capital efficient because this like balance is not big enough and sits doing nothing on the beacon chain. This has like a pretty simple fix. Could be a pretty simple fix. Like it doesn't work with 0x00 credentials, but 0x01, 0x02 it works. And this is basically if there is a deposit and there are it has different withdrawal credentials than the first one, tax it a bit. And so this is DOS protection and make a withdrawal right away. So now the stealing funds attack can only become like a small grief attack. And that makes things a lot easier to design around. I don't think that anyone uses this as a feature, so it shouldn't break backwards compatibility. But if that's an issue, this can be only applied to 0x02 credentials.
Sorry, if I understand, the proposed fix could work independently of MaxEB, or is there anything specific about the fix that is enabled by MaxEB?
Like it's increases the potential impact per deposit with MaxEB. So that's why we brought it up. And this is also like it can be independent, like implemented independently, but it could be like folded into MaxEB as well, especially if it's only concerns the new credentials. So I'm bringing it right now because like this is a bit easier than championing a new EP right like from the start.
I'm curious how this attack is severe, considering 7002 where you can access with withdrawal credits.
It's not mitigated at all. The issue is like you get deposit credentials from a not operator. You push your deposit, but like not operator sees in mempool and front runs it with their own deposit with their own withdrawal credentials. So you don't control anything about it, like about where your money goes. Let me open there.
Yeah, so how it will be exploited is you expect, so you as an operator submit your public key into the Lido contract. And the Lido
Yeah.
contract funds the deposit for you and sends a transaction to the deposit contract with 2000
Yes.
and your public key. Then you, the holder of the public key, sign a distinct deposit with different withdrawal credentials, hoping that it lands in the deposit contract before the transaction for Lido. Then if
Yes.
your deposit is processed first, that's the one that creates the validator record.
Yes.
So there will be a record with your public key and your own withdrawal credentials. And then later, the deposit from Lido would not be a record creation. It will be a top up on
Yes.
withdrawal credentials that you control, effectively stealing all the value.
Right.
So yeah, because the deposit contract cannot be changed and everything is quite flexible. I agree that the only solution I am aware of is this one. So things are immediately booted out. I guess something to consider if we want to do a solution like this is that after EIP 61110, which is also considered for inclusion for the next fork, the amount of deposits per block is not bounded. So it's only bounded by the amount of gas in the block. I think Mikhail and others did some math, and that would turn out to be about 700 per block. Maybe you can confirm, Mikhail, but some number.
Yeah, it's more.
That's
It's about it's even more than 1,000. It's like 1,200
well, okay.
at the max.
So if we do this, it would mean that we will have to make withdrawals also unbounded, because there is a potential where every single deposit has to be rejected. So yeah, I think it's a good proposal. This is definitely I would suggest you guys, if you want, I can help. I think this is worthwhile because it's a big issue for trustless pools. But it deserves an EAP of its own, and we can consider with people from execution if there is an issue to have unbounded withdrawals. But that would be I would say the biggest hurdle that we have to check if that's okay or not.
Yeah, there is an alternative which is like creating like straight a new validator that starts in the exited state, but it's also like pretty clumsy. Yeah, okay. So I think that's a new EAP, right? Because like this doesn't work with the current withdrawals structure. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think this is a strong EAP. Like I could see this getting traction, so definitely worthwhile to do it properly.
Okay.
For this, we'll need a draw queue. Like this is something that MaxEB introduces.
Well, either a withdraw queue or we can just put it directly on the block immediately.
Yes.
Which if we go that route and we accept withdrawals to be kind of unbounded, I think it also simplifies a bit things for MaxEB. Because we have two competing things. We have partial withdrawals and full exits. If they can overflow each other, then I think things are easier to reason about. And it also ties to your concern about custom ceilings, because we have competing interest for limited block space on withdrawals. Yeah, things to think about.
Partial withdrawals are anyway bounded by the exit churn.
Right. Well, but we could have many individual withdrawals of tiny amounts, and then that would mean a high number of individual objects that have to be appended to the block.
Yep. Having completely unlimited number of withdrawals per block. I don't think it does make
Well,
sense. Like,
maybe completely unlimited is a bit extreme, but there is an argument. So the only thing a withdrawal does is mint ETH into some account. So it's a purely one storage change on one account. That should be equivalent to half an ETH transfer, which, well, even less. So an ETH transfer changes the nonce of an account plus the balance of two accounts. And a withdrawal just changes the balance of a single account. So you could even consider that that's like about 11,000 gas. So purely by gas, we could fit at a lot of withdrawals. So maybe 16 is a very lower bound.
yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so that covers all the topics on the agenda. Anything else anyone wants to bring up?
Yeah, I just wanted to share this PR. If anyone could look into it and approve, that'd be great. It has several different changes, like renaming and introducing some constants and protection for voluntary exit. If there is the pending withdrawal balance for whether the exit is prohibited. We had this logic for the EL triggered exits, but we did not introduce it for voluntary exit, which is processed by the beacon chain completely. So yeah, this is the fix for this part. Please take a look.
Thank you.
And also about custom ceilings, I think that if there is no strong case for having them, we'll just go without them. And yeah, that's not to introduce the complexity for no reason.
Well, I think it has been very helpful for Vasily to join us today. Probably we should engage more about the specifics of custom ceilings because the usefulness of them is tightly related to the usage patterns of the different stakeholders in the chain. So I would say we have to do a bit more of outreach to answer that question and also confirm the impact of the current consolidation mechanism to just inform if we should do something or something else. So maybe to recap on the previous week, the options we had for consideration was either make it a gossip topic, which should have I would say medium to moderate complexity. It's not a strictly consensus change, so it's something that we can deprecate later without too much pain. So that's why we chose it. If we choose to do something that's execution initiated, that would require an extra field on the block and something that has more technical debt cost. But hopefully it should not be too bad because so this idea of a message bridge from execution to consensus, we would introduce that with EIP 7002. So it's maybe on the moderate to high complexity, depending on what execution depths say, but definitely on the realm of possibilities. So yeah, let's do a bit more outreach, collect information for the next one, and hopefully come to a conclusion. So once again, before we wrap up, any other comments, final remarks?
Thanks, folks, for having me.
Sure, thanks for coming. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Sorry for the link change. And thank you, Phil, for taking over and doing the recording. So see you all on the next one.
Thanks, Line. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lion. Thanks, Vasily. Thanks, everyone. Bye.